It's happening! I'm so excited. You can see the title. Hi friends, we're gonna go see Evil Dead Rise. I'm so stoked, and I'm going to the Perth premiere. Last time I went to a premiere, I showed the clip of me taking popcorn. Everyone's like, do you get free popcorn in Australia? No, sorry about that. It is because I get invited to these events sometimes, and I'm so grateful. It is such an exciting week for me because I have Beau is Afraid on Thursday. I had to toss up which one to watch first, and I got invited to see Evil Dead first, so Evil Dead took priority, but honestly, there's no bad choice. I don't think. I'm so excited because I have such high hopes for both, but I'm going to go in with an open mind. Obviously, Evil Dead Rise, if you didn't check it out, I did a ranking video of all the Evil Dead, so I'm up to date. Not that I wasn't, but I did a recap for myself, looking through the lore again, so I'm really invested in seeing what they do with this new film. Evil Dead Rise is directed by Lee Cronin, who is from Dublin, Ireland, and did The Hole in the Ground, which was a horror movie that came out in 2019, which I believe I reviewed. I really enjoyed, and it's so different to the vibe of Evil Dead, or really the vibe of 2013 Evil Dead, which this kind of happens in the same universe, so I'm hoping it's gonna keep the same kind of blood, guts, gore, all the disturbing element. I'm hoping it's gonna be as shocking as that. I haven't seen it's weird to say I haven't seen a really scary horror movie, but I haven't seen a horror movie that's like pushing the envelope in terms of just being gory and bloody and not so shocking in terms of its storyline. That's how I feel about like the Evil Dead 2013. And I haven't seen a film that's just going to go full scare out there to terrify you, and not just mentally, but visually. And I'll be really interested to see how he does that in this film. The film also has some Aussies and New Zealanders playing the main cast, and it was shot in New Zealand and in Ireland. I haven't watched the full trailer. I have skimmed through parts. I had to for videos, but I never watched it in full, and I'm just excited. I'm just so excited because the vibe I get just from the couple of clips I've seen, and I've kept it spoiler free in all of the ones I've shown them. I really stick to the clips that I know won't give away parts of the story. I know that's the best way to do it by now. These are spoiler free videos, but the vibe I'm getting so far is absolutely haunting, terrifying, icky, get under your skin, and nightmare fuel. It's gonna be pure nightmare fuel. That's what I'm expecting. That's what I'm hoping. If there's a storyline in there that doesn't have any plot holes, I'm also gonna enjoy that. I'm a big fan of the original Evil Dead, and I'm a big fan of how they transformed the franchise, and hopefully I'm gonna be a big fan of Evil Dead Rise. Are you excited? We're going to go watch it tonight. I'm going to tell you whether it's worth your time and worth going out and seeing straight away in the cinema, or whether you should wait to stream. All spoiler free, and if you have seen the film, please let me know what you thought down below. I can't wait to read your comments. Let's go and check it out. Wow, did that film deliver? Wow, I have a lot of thoughts. We're going to keep it spoiler free, but that was insane, intense, action-packed, complete bloody violence. I don't know how else to sum that up. Evil Dead Rise is a little bit different than what I assumed it was going to be, so hopefully this can adjust your expectations and tell you exactly what to expect. The film... I have a lot of thoughts. The film was non-stop bloody violence. I had a little bit of a story throughout, but that really took the reins, and that was the objective of this film. The objective of this film was to be the most gory, movie you can see in theaters today. And it really did take the cake. I know we've got Terrifier 2, and that is quite gory, but I think that this is up to par with the gore for sure. They really did, in very creative ways, try to outdo the last Evil Dead from 10 years ago. I can't even believe it, from 2013. They tried to outdo that in their own way while paying ode. But I do have a lot of thoughts on the paying ode section of this. I guess the core part of the movie is about a family living in it's not a high rise, it's just an apartment block. I kind of wished when I heard first about Evil Dead Rise that it was a high rise in the middle of a city, in a big city. This is in LA, but it's quite LA. My Australian accent comes out, but it's quite it feels very isolated at the same time, and it's really strange because this is the only Evil Dead. I guess, no, actually that's completely wrong because Army of Darkness, of course, takes place in a different dimension, basically. But I feel like this film is so far removed from the core idea, which is like, you know, a group of friends going to a cabin in an isolated location. There is an inciting incident that starts off these events, which I thought was a really interesting way of doing it, and it kind of makes sense. But the way it's kind of tied in to the original themes and the original idea is a little bit wonky, I will say. They've kind of changed up the lore from the remake, and I thought that this, I was under the impression, and I still think that they expect the audience to believe that this was within the same universe as the 2013 remake, but there's a lot of different elements that make me feel like it's a complete new remake. I just find that a little bit interesting. We follow a family who have a brush with the Book of the Dead, and it completely turns their lives upside down, complete chaos, and they're stuck in this apartment building with their families basically turning on them. And it is disgusting. It is skin-crawling goodness. It is bloody, and it just really takes the reign of being really creative with props and really giving its all to just pure chaotic evil. The reason I feel like this film is kind of unconnected to the others, for like a spoiler-free thing, the book looks completely different. The Book of the Dead, it looks completely different, and there's elements of the lore that are missing, and it doesn't quite apply to this chapter, I should say. So I just think that's really interesting. Obviously, the film was pitched as an Evil Dead film, which is why it's made this way, but I think that they kind of use the Evil Dead as a base, and they just jump off of that or build onto that like a little bit of a character background story that's quite detailed, and then just completely go nuts from there. And I think it was easier for them to build off a base of something that already exists instead of creating their own one. They don't really explain a lot in this film. It's just wall-to-wall demonic possession, and it's absolutely wild. If you're a fan of seeing like the most, you know, those scenes in movies that make your skin crawl, like Conjuring scenes, The Nun, all that kind of stuff that's just like really creepy, but usually we only see them in like MA horrors for maybe like 10-minute scenes, and it's that scene that everyone goes nuts about. This whole film is that scene, and I think that that's incredible in itself, and that's what makes me want to suggest, if you love that kind of thing, if you love seeing like the most intense, visually shocking possession scenes, especially possession, that's why you have to see this one in the cinema, because there's nothing quite like it, and also you just won't see this kind of thing again. It just does not happen. It does not happen, and it just seems so shocking to watch it in the theater. So tonight I was invited by Warner Bros, and I have to say it's really interesting when there are premieres like this, because, you know, there's a lot of media peeps, and I can't tell you how many people got up and walked out, came back, but I honestly think that there were a lot more toilet breaks than usual, because people were just, they had had enough, because it's relentless. It does not give you a break. And I saw some people actually leave as well halfway through the film, because there is no coming up for air. It's not that kind of film at all. There's no investigation. It's just wall-to-wall shocking, shocking content. And in saying that, it was really interesting I've touched on like the creative aspects of this, and I think it's really interesting because a lot of the story doesn't quite flow as a story. It feels like to me that a lot of the film is based around the idea of having these insane kills at certain places or using certain objects, and then just kind of threaded into a story somehow. How do we get, you know, this person to this object and then this to exist in this kind of land? Because the setups for the characters are, like, the family is so interesting, how detailed they talk about, like, the girl going to a protest, all these different aspects that are kind of building what kind of characters they are, but really at the end of the day don't really make sense to bring up when the storyline, as soon as trouble comes in, as soon as the metaphorical, you know, evil blanket is laid upon this family, like, it's all out the window. So I thought that was really interesting. I think that it was just there to lay down these objects and these little things that could happen, and a little creative, I don't want to say kills because it's not always kills, but little creative intense scenes, I would say. The whole thing is just threading these different elements together to just get the best bang for your buck, basically. Because of that, I wouldn't want to say disappointed. I just wanted there to be a more interesting or clever story threaded through. I think I was kind of spoiled, or we all were, for 2013 for the whole idea of her going cold turkey and detoxing and how that tied into the idea of possession. And I don't think that there's anything quite poetic about this one. And yeah, it just didn't feel like it tied in super clever. Although it played a lot of ode, there's definitely some things that are trickled in there to try and do callbacks. It's not very in your face, and it just didn't seem like it had a lot of purpose to the story except for to just completely shock you, freak you out. And it definitely succeeds in that. So I can't say that this film didn't do anything great, because I was shocked. My jaw was on the floor. It was pretty amazing, I have to say. But I do have a couple of comments that I think just took me out of the film, and these are more towards the start. The accents. And I know that I looked into this before as to where the actresses and actors and where this was filmed, but I usually do. I felt like the accents weren't consistent. And maybe it was the way they were dressed. It just didn't seem like it was very LA to me. And that's also, I kind of touched on that with the isolated location. It didn't feel like it was in a big city. It felt very isolated, not very busy. And yeah, it's just not what I was anticipating. The accents were changing throughout, just some little slip-ups and some inconsistencies there. But then also I felt like a lot of the movements for the people when they were still people, before any evil comes in, were really awkward. Almost the chemistry between the characters was really, really awkward when we were trying to get this storyline. And there's just a few things that felt like almost we were starting on cheesy, and I got a little bit worried there. But what was so funny was, as soon as the possession takes hold, that's when you see it in all of its glory, and that's when everyone was just on their A game. And I've never heard of that. Usually when you watch a horror movie with any kind of possession or, you know, demonic presence, it can get a little bit iffy and cheesy once the person is possessed. In this case, it was completely opposite. When they were human and when they were just having conversation, there was a lot of dialogue. It felt a little bit awkward, and as soon as they changed, it was amazing. It was like they were born for this role, all of them. And their makeup is really well done. More so the fact that they can transition throughout scenes. We watch the same characters transition slowly. In the other Evil Dead films, it's a very fast transition. It happens in a split second. Someone is normal, especially in the first one. Are you kidding me? Someone is normal, and the next minute their head spins, and they've got this crazy makeup on, and they're saying they're going to eat someone's soul. In this film, it's very gradual, and it changes scene to scene. You really transform slowly with them, and I really appreciated that about this. I thought it was like a really cool point of difference. There are some other surprises, which I'm not going to touch on. I can't wait for you guys to figure them out. I told you, my jaw was on the floor. It's very interesting where this film goes. And I'm really keen to hear what all of you have to say about it. Overall, I really enjoyed this film. Would I say it's my favorite Evil Dead film? No. The story just didn't thread through, but it is the most action-packed, slickest, most intense ride I have had at the cinema for years. It's basically the most brutal film you can see in the cinema, like, today. It's absolutely wild to see this in that kind of setting, and I really enjoyed it for that. I still think it's a very solid movie. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It may not be my favorite Evil Dead film, but I think it's kind of on par with Army of Darkness for very different reasons for me. Yeah, it was just so awesome to see this kind of special effects, the makeup, and the possession. I don't think I've seen a better possession done, to be honest. I absolutely loved the way they handled it in this film, and that's something that really can tip a movie for a lot of people. So the fact that they stayed with it for the whole film is just absolutely fantastic. For originality, that one's a hard one. It hasn't really got any original factors, I don't think. I think most of these things are scenes that people have wanted to do, and they try to find a way to kind of thread it all together, as I've said before. And it didn't really have an overwhelmingly unique story, so I'm actually going to have to give it a 3 for that, unfortunately. That sucks. But it's very truthful. And for scare, though, scare's got to get a 9. I honestly, it's just very intense. It's a lot. And the couple of jump scares, there are a little bit of jump scares in there, but they're very warranted to the story. They weren't what you think. They were like objects falling over that got me. Either way, I do recommend going and checking this one out. It is a wild ride, and I know you guys are going to enjoy it. Those people who love shocking, violent things, you will like this one. If you like possession films, definitely check it out, and make sure you check it out in cinemas because you don't get chances like this a lot. I did get a note from my husband who came to see this with me, who does not like horror movies. I warned him. I told him this is probably going to be very intense. He more so doesn't like the dark, disturbing ones, which are my favorite. So like films like Barbarian that has some disturbing elements to the background story freak him out more. He said that this one was watchable, but he would not recommend it if you don't like horror. I just want to throw that in there in case you have a friend, family member, significant other that you want to go watch this with. I wanted to give you like some feedback for that because I think that's important too. Anyway, have you seen Evil Dead Rise? Let me know what you thought down below. What a wonderful time to be a horror fan. I'll talk to you guys very soon for Beau is Afraid. And also, Renfield is not out in Australia for another month, so that's why I'm not covering that just yet. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Bye, friends.